I'm Dr. Sandi, the grief specialist with Hansen Mortuary. Thank you for joining us today. Everybody has a story. David Kessler, who's a grief specialist of international fame, says that to heal, grief must be witnessed. I agree with that. We need to be acknowledged and heard, and we need to tell that story so it can be heard. So today I brought a talking stick. This is something I use sometimes with families or in groups to help people have something to focus on when they share the story about their loved one's life and death with us. Talking stick is a Native American traditional tool. What I like about talking stick is the truth is really pretty straightforward. And if we want to tell it that way, the truth is pretty straightforward. And this talking stick has things on it with texture, because sometimes when we're telling our story, it's a little nerve-wracking and we get a little worried and we get a little distracted. And so having something to focus on like this, whether it's the beads or the leather or the fur, it can make it a little bit easier to share than just straight up looking somebody in the face and tell them a story. Stories help us come to terms with reality. For many people, they tell the story of their loved one's death over and over and over and over. Sometimes the people closest to them are tired of hearing it, but they need to hear it themselves to come to terms with the reality of what's going on sometimes. So it's not unusual for someone to tell the story over and over and over. Sometimes we are telling it truly to inform other people that want to know what's happened. And then they in turn have that option of supporting us. Sometimes we tell the story because we're trying to understand. It's just not making sense. And maybe if I tell the story enough times, somehow it'll start to make sense to me. And it may never. Some interesting things about stories is sometimes stories start out really long, and then over time they get a little shorter and they get a little shorter. I've known people where in the beginning their story of their loved one's death may be 10 minutes of great detail and lots of emotion. And then if I see them a year later, the story may be a sentence. Yeah, my mom died last November. And that's all the story that they want to tell. And for their own healing, that's the only story they need to tell at that time. The other thing in terms of telling your story is the facts may never change, but how you experience them, how you understand them, or how you feel them, it may change a lot, both in the telling and the time of healing. The philosopher Kierkegaard had a saying that I think has a lot of value. Life can only be understood when we look backwards, but life can only be lived forwards. So as we look back and we're reflecting on our experiences, we see different things in our story than when we are living them. And that reflection is how it should be. What is the story that you're ready to tell? What story do you want people to hear? Be brave, tell your story, and know that every time you tell it and how you tell it is one step closer to your own healing. I'm Dr. Sandi with Hansen Mortuary. We're here when you need us.